Welcome to another lesson with Let's Learn Turkish. In today's lessons, we'll be looking at greetings and farewells in Turkish. I'm your host Vulcan. Let's begin. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at the formal and informal ways to say greetings and farewells, where to use the formal and the informal way, and we'll be talking about an example more like showing an example of two colleagues and friends using the both formal and informal way when using them. Let's start with how you would say hello and hi in Turkish. The formal way is merhaba. Merhaba. Merhaba. The informal way is selam. Selam. Selam. Now let's look at good morning and good afternoon. Good morning you would say günaydın. Günaydın. Günaydın. This is both the formal and the informal way, so it's nice and easy to remember. You would say good afternoon. You would say for good afternoon, you would say iyi günler. İyi günler. Also notice how this is the formal way to say good morning. Now let's look at goodbye, as in our farewells. Let's start with what you would say if you were the host. The host would say güle güle, as in the person staying at the location. So güle güle, güle güle. Now for the person leaving would say hoşça kal. Hoşça kal. Of course, this is the informal way. The formal way to say hoşça kal is hoşça kalın. Hoşça kalın. Hoşça kalın. And you would say, as the host, you would say görüşmek üzere. Görüşmek üzere. Görüşmek üzere. This is like saying see you later in a formal or informal way. Now, you're probably a bit confused on where you should use the formal and the informal way. This should hopefully help. The formal way is usually used when you are addressing with someone who is older than you. Turkish people pay a lot of attention to the elderly. You will notice this when you go to Turkey. Or if you have any Turkish friends or people you know, you'll notice this, that they always address elderly in a more formal way. If you're in a professional environment, especially a work environment, which you'll see later on in our example, a work environment on how formally it will be addressed. And if you're not familiar with the person, you've only had a couple of acquaintances with this person, so the polite way is being formal. Where would you use the informal way? You'll use it with friends, with relatives, and people younger than you. Of course, keep in mind, even if you're in a work environment, even if they are younger than you, you will have to use the formal way because that is the way it is in Turkey. I wouldn't say unfortunately, but I would say when I worked in Turkey, even though my colleagues were much, much younger than me, I would have to address them in the formal way while I was at work. Out of work hours, of course, it's different. Now let's look at an example of a formal way where, let's say, two work colleagues, so we will have one male and one female, how they would address each other. So in this case, we've got a gentleman named Emre. So Emre would say merhaba, iyi günler. Our female character, Merve Hanım. Now, Hanım means miss in Turkish. In the work environment, when you will notice this, if you go to Turkey, when they address one another, they'll also, the men will address the female as, they'll say their first name and then they'll say hanım, and the females will address the men by saying their first name and saying bey. So back to our example, Emre would say merhaba, iyi günler Merve Hanım. And Merve would say iyi günler Emre Bey. And when Emre is leaving, Emre would say hoşça kalın Merve Hanım. As in, say hoşça kalın, the formal way of using hoşça kal, hoşça kalın. And Merve would say güle güle Emre Bey. Now let's think of Emre and Merve as close friends. Here's how they would greet each other. Emre would say günaydın, selam Merve. Günaydın, as you can use informal and formal way as a greeting. Selam being the informal way of saying hello and hi. Merve would say selam Emre. And when Emre is leaving, Emre would say hoşça kal, the informal way of saying goodbye. Hoşça kalın. Remember, it was the formal way. Hoşça kal is the informal way. And Merve would say görüşmek üzere Emre, as in see you later Emre. Like always, thank you for watching. Stay safe and hoşça kalın.